Hello and welcome to this Kubler software tutorial on how to calculate cut and fill for Earthworks projects. In this tutorial we are going to take an example project and talk through using three common methods to calculate a cut and fill estimate. The first two methods are the cross-section method and the grid method. The third method we look at is using our software, Kubler Cubed, to achieve the same thing. The example we are going to use is adding the platform shown here to Alcatraz Island. This involves both cut and fill. We've shaded the cut in red and the fill in blue. The example is a very large project, but the methods we describe here can be used just as easily with a small house foundation. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, we're going to look at using the cross-section method to calculate cut and fill volumes. The idea of the cross-section method is to draw cross-section lines at equal intervals across our project and then calculate the cut and fill volumes between each of these lines. When we add all of these volumes together, we'll get the total cut and fill volume for the whole project. So we'll start drawing these lines on our plan like this. For each of these lines, we are going to plot the existing ground levels and the proposed ground levels. From these plots, we can calculate the cross-sectional cut area and cross-sectional fill area, and we will use these areas to estimate the volumes between the lines. We'll get into that calculation a bit later on in this video. But next, let's go into the 3D view to show how these sections look once they've been plotted. As you can see, we've shaded the cut areas in red and the fill areas in blue. I should say at this point that the spacing that you choose between the sections is up to you to decide. The closer together you make the sections, the more accurate your estimate will be. The flip side of that is that it will take longer to generate the estimate, so for you it's a balance that you need to make between accuracy and the time you have available. There's a lot of methods that you can use to create these plots and calculate cut and fill areas from the cross sections. You can plot them manually using graph paper and then count grid squares on your graph paper to estimate the cut and fill areas. You can plot them out in CAD, which can give you the areas automatically. Another popular method is to use spreadsheets. We've actually made an Excel spreadsheet which automates a lot of this work, so you can download that if you want to use this method. It's a good starting point. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom into two of the cross sections that we've plotted and explain how we will estimate the volume of cut and fill between them. This involves calculating the average cut or fill area between the two sections and multiplying it by the distance between the sections. We'll first run through this for the cut volume. We calculate the average cross-sectional cut area between the two sections. We multiply this by the distance between the two sections to get the cut volume. We can then do exactly the same thing for the fill volume. After that, we just repeat the process to estimate the cut and fill volumes between each of these sections. The final stage is to add all of these individual volumes up to get the total volumes for the whole project. We'll start by doing this for the cut volumes, and then we do exactly the same thing for the fill volumes. Okay, so that's an overview of the cross-section method. It can be very time-consuming to use this method, but one of the advantages is that you get cross-section plots, which can be really useful for presenting a summary of your project and to help visualize your estimates later on. The second method we're going to look at, which is also a manual technique, is the grid method. This method involves drawing a regular grid onto a plan of our site. For each of the grid squares, we will determine the cut or fill depth. We will get the cut or fill volume by multiplying this depth with the area of the grid square. We determine these volumes for each grid square and get the total volumes by adding them all together. Just like with the cross-section method, the grid method will be more accurate with a closer spaced grid, but it will take longer to generate the estimate. Again, you need to decide how to balance accuracy with speed. Let's go into this in a little more detail by taking a single square of this grid. As you can see, this is a cut grid square. The first thing we will do is calculate the average existing level as an average of the four corners of the square. We then calculate the average proposed level in the same way. We will calculate the earthworks depth as the average proposed level minus the average existing level. If this value comes out negative, then this is a cut square. If it's positive, then it's a fill square. When we have the earthworks depth, we calculate the volume for the square simply by multiplying this depth by the cell area. We repeat this process for every grid square, adding all the cut squares together to get the total cut volume, and all the fill squares together to get the total fill volume. So that's an overview of the grid method. Like the cross-section method, it's very laborious to implement. It does have an advantage in that you can present all your workings on a single drawing. This makes it very easy for other people to check your calculations.
The last method we're going to look at is using software, specifically the software we make, Kubler Cubed, to do cut and fill volume calculations. So to start, go to your browser and type in www.kublersoftware/Kubler Cubed. That will load up the Kubler Cubed page, which gives you a bit of detail about the program. Click on the free version tab, and then fill in your details and click Get Software. It's a totally free version. It's not got a trial time limit or anything like that. So if you put in your name, email address, organization, and how you heard about this program, so in this case you might just put YouTube. We don't pass on your email address to any third parties or anything like that, so you don't need to worry about that. The download's about 65 megabytes, so depending on the speed of your connection, it can take a bit of time. So you usually have browser options which just save or run, so click on save. We do also sell a full version of Kubler Cubed, which has got a lot more features than the light version, including things like an exporter to DXF, which is very useful. But for the standard cut and fill calculations, you can do all that with the free version that we're downloading now. Okay, you get the standard terms and conditions. If you read through those, if you agree, click I agree and then install. It's all pretty standard stuff. When the program launches, to start any project, you need to import your existing terrain before you you plan out your proposed design. So you do that by going terrain, load from points, and you need to load a point file, a file containing a list of points. So we're going to use the Alcatraz example that we were using earlier with the other methods. The program automatically picks up the points and their format. Although you can change certain options in there if they're not correct. So the terrain loads and it's shaded in a grayscale color scheme. We're just going to change that to one we created previously, so it matches the color scheme used in the previous methods. Once that's done, we can start creating the platform for our proposed design. So you do that by clicking on the plus button at the top right. To create a platform, you just left click to define the boundary, and then when you're finished you can right click and it will calculate the cut and fill volumes in real time up on the top left. Okay, so after that, if you look on the right, you can see that there's various platform options that we can change, such as we just changed the level there to 0 to match the other methods that we are comparing to, the other examples. You can also change the cut and fill slope, angle, and whether it's a cut platform or a cut and fill platform or just a fill platform. Right now we're manually amending some of the definition points that we placed earlier using the mouse. It can be quite useful for just making sure that your design is exactly as you want it. You can see in the output the cut is shaded in red and the fill is shaded in blue. That can be changed, but that's the default, and it shows up quite clearly what's happening. So we're getting closer to the layout that we had in the other examples, and you should see on the top left that the volumes are starting to reflect that. You can see at the top left the stats that are displayed are area, volume, and max depth, max height, and also the net calculations. Okay, so that's the software method. Obvious advantages of this one are the speed of producing an estimate, but also the increased accuracy that software is capable of because of that ability to work very quickly. On top of that, good software can be used to produce very nice reports and visualizations of your design.
Okay, so that's the end of the video. I hope you found it useful. If you want further information, you can find links in the description field of this video or on our website www.kublasoftware.com.